Through my recent experience, I have been thoroughly delighted by the accepting nature of my friends and family during my mental illness. The unnecessary stigma surrounding illnesses such as depression, anxiety, and eating disorders, to name only a few, has through a tremendous amount of effort been reduced and minimised over recent years. Although not everyone has embraced it, huge progress has been made to break down barriers that for some could hinder recovery, and as a community, we should be proud of this progression. Now the stigma has begun to fall, we have to endure an entirely new struggle which is rarely approached. We understand mental illness, we can recognise its signs, we are willing to help, and we are willing to discuss it. But few seem to know how to talk about it despite their willingness. My experience is like any other mental or physical illness. It is unique. My causes, symptoms, treatment, and progress are entirely different to each and every individual with a similar illness to myself. Through my battle with depression, it became apparent that everyone around me wanted to help, but they just didn't know how. It is completely understandable, and I don't have a problem with that, but maybe it's time to address it a little. You don't learn how to drive a car without being shown. You don't pass school exams without being taught. So how could you, with no past experience of mental illness, know how to approach the situation? So from what I've discovered, I'd like to share some of my advice, but with a few disclaimers as well. I hope this may apply to some instances, but it will definitely not apply to all. Every individual is different and will have different ideas and methods which suit them better. My opinions are in no way rules or musts, simply things to think about and consider. Mental illness is nothing to be ashamed about, but yes, I agree, it's difficult to get your head around. We don't know what to say, not because we don't want to help, but because we care so much for the sufferer, we tend to be scared saying the wrong thing will cause an awful reaction. In my opinion, saying the wrong thing can be hurtful, but it doesn't lead to the overestimated despair you imagine. And to be honest, I'd rather you said something than nothing. So now you know to say something. What do you say? I've been quite passionate that I will not limit any of my friends or family over what topics of conversation can be held over mealtimes, but they are fully aware that certain things just aren't said. Jokes about mental illness, memories of things I want to forget, and moments that I'm embarrassed to remember aren't mentioned. There is no list of banned words or sentences, no rules or punishments. It is simply emotional intelligence. A teacher once explained this to me. Emotional intelligence is defined as the capacity of individuals to recognize their own and other people's emotions, to discriminate between different feelings and label them appropriately, and to use emotional information to guide thinking and behaviour. More simply, it's an awareness of other people's feelings and the ability to respond and react appropriately. For example, imagine a professional footballer who just broke his leg and can never play again, and he's finding it hard to cope. You're probably aware that the first time you see him, you don't immediately tell him how well the rest of the teams in the league and all the players have played recently. That would just upset him even more. You didn't need him to tell you, you just know. However, I understand not every situation is as obvious, especially surrounding mental illness, and especially when you do not know the background of a sufferer in its entirety. For example, another injured footballer may want to spend all his time talking about the league while he recovers because he is so passionate about his sport. But if you know them well, if you are a close family member or a friend, it is this awareness and emotional intelligence that can make a huge difference. A friend of mine who suffered from an eating disorder once put it quite simply. They told me, I do not stop my friends from talking about the food and things that they eat. How could I? They're teenagers. But my best friends all know not to make comments about how much I've eaten. They know how to encourage me, but not belittle me. And they know not to idolise anyone who is underweight or around them, for that would trigger me to make comparisons between me and them. As sufferers of mental illness, we were both adamant that we do not want people to tiptoe around us, being be scared about every conversation we have. The remaining stigma makes coming to terms with our illness hard enough, so we definitely do not want to be treated any different than any other individual. We are normal, we are human, we are just sick. However, this same friend then went on to complain about people who don't know her being rude and stupid because they said the wrong thing. I disagree. For me, there are two groups of people, those who know my story and those who don't. I cannot and will not expect someone who has no idea about my illness to not say anything wrong. How could they? They don't know. I'm aware they don't know any better, and they definitely didn't mean it offensively, so how could I hold it against them? As with any relationship or conversation, it goes two ways. I need to be just as empathetic to both groups who tried to help me, as well as them trying to be empathetic towards me. The second group, those who do know, don't have it any easier. I would imagine they feel pressured to be supportive and scared of making things worse. So that's where teamwork comes in. What I'm trying to say, and what I would like even just one person to remember, is that now we have ended some of the stigma and we are ready to talk. We need to talk openly about what each individual finds offensive or difficult to listen to, which topics we struggle with and which we don't. And that's just the sufferer's role. To the supporters, we need to refine our emotional intelligence and be aware, but not scared, of the difficult conversation topics. I think of it like an exam you just cannot revise for. There is no textbook or a revision guide or a teacher to learn from. You simply have to try your best, no matter how nervous you are. Remember that you achieve an A when you get 80%. This means you can get one question wrong out of every 5 and still get the top grade. You can and will pass, even if it is with plenty of mistakes. But the key point is, if you don't at least try to answer every question, you will definitely not get 100%. And if you use common sense and some of your natural intelligence, you'll be halfway there. Each and every one of us, sufferers and supporters, need to be aware of what we are talking about, but also how we say it.